Hey guys, welcome to the PiG Daily, episode number 85, and today we are going to be rounding up the Dark vs. Byun finals of Blizzcon 2016. This really was one of the absolute best series, and yesterday we went over the best game, which you guys should definitely check out if you haven't already. Game 5 on Sejong Station was just incredible. Dark was down 3-1, he was game away from losing, he got in a pretty bad position, and then he just defended so many attacks from so many angles. There was a moment where he literally defended multiple Liberators, multiple drops, and a frontal assault, all at the exact same time, and only lost a small handful of drones. That was one of the most staggeringly skilled games we've ever seen. But at the end of that, man, Dark looked like he had seen some shit. Like, he was drained, he was exhausted. I'm actually just going to show you a tiny clip from
live at the bottom. Left.
Look at that face. That's the face of a guy who has seen some shit. He literally is just like, oh my god, I am so drained after that game. And we get to see some beautiful couple of guys that talk about StarCraft for a living as well. But yeah, he was looking exhausted. I remember I was sitting there on the right-hand side of the stage, and I was looking up at him, and I'm like, oh, he looks tired. I was like, please keep it together. Like, you gotta... I'm sure in his head he was like, this feels good, man. I'm bringing it back. Like, I won that game. But he still knew he had to win 2 games in a row, one on Frost and then one on Dasan Station. Frost is the next map. It's a funny map. It's a map which ends up really weird. So let's dive straight into game and start talking about this one. Because this map really is a little bit of a dice roll. What Dark would have been hoping for here was cross map. He would have been hoping for there to be that long distance where he can just have plenty of time to defend against the attacks, lots of room to work with. Whilst Byun over here, he just lost a game which he was up in. And he said in his interview, you know, that he was worried about Dark kind of bringing it back from being a game away from defeat. He was referencing a famous baseball game, something like Bears and Cubs or something like that. I don't know. Bears and Cubs, that doesn't sound like 2 different teams, because wouldn't it be like a Bear Cub? I don't know anything about baseball. But anyway, he was like, oh man, I was worried that, you know, I'd let the game slip away from me. But he does end up getting horizontal spawn, which is what you'd be hoping for no matter what your style is as Terran. You always want this because the rush distance is super short from third base to third base. And you get this great watchtower in the middle with these sight blockers, which are always going to favor the player with the ranged army over the melee army. So the Marines, the siege tanks are going to be able to abuse this a lot more than the Zerglings and Banelings. And with that nice quick push path, it just gets very powerful. Also, where does Zerg take he takes his third there. He can't really take this fourth. Or he can, but there's this horrible ledge above it. There's this choke point. Once again, all these pieces of terrain which ranged units are able to use to their favor. And that's something which we saw some of the most incredible play from Dark in Kesper Cup against Byun, where it went to Game 5 in a best-of-5 series. It was in these exact same sort of horizontal locations, just Dark was on the bottom left and Byun was on the bottom right. And Dark actually held onto this base against like a constant parade push plus multi-prong drops for like, I don't know, it was like 10 minutes, 15 minutes of Dark fighting on this shitty low drone count, just scrappily defending over and over again with his insane micro. And he somehow managed to hold on and turn that series around. But that really was a special case. You can't expect that to happen every single time. So Dark, I'm sure, was hoping it wouldn't be horizontal spawns, but nonetheless, he would have been going into this series thinking it's a 4-player map. I've played Gas Pool every single game so far to be safe against Reapers and Proxy Reapers. This game, I'm safe to go Hatchery before Gas and Pool because you're not going to go 3 racks Reaper on this map. What if it's cross map? It's going to take your Reapers forever to get over here. What if it's this horizontal spawn? Even there, it's going to take forever. But Byun here, just being ballsy and being so confident, actually goes for the kind of crazy, almost tempo-based play here. And I really wonder how this would have played out if he got cross-map. I really think it would have been pretty tough for him. But as it is, he actually gets these side spawns, and his Reaper even goes in the correct direction. He doesn't scout at all, and his Reaper finds Dark immediately and starts getting damage done. This is that moment where all of the stars have aligned, and Dark, who's exhausted, he's a bit tired, he's got to be shaking his head in friggin' anger and rage here. I think he might have also just been a little bit confused and in disbelief about what was happening, or he somehow misread the situation, because what we're going to see is that Overlord did actually come in. So before this Reaper even comes in, Dark's poked in with this Overlord. I think it's right about 2 minutes 10 when he actually sees exactly what's going on. And he sees this barracks timing. Now, I was initially thinking, oh, could he maybe think that's a command center first with a barracks being that late? Double checked the timings. A command center first and second barracks would both be finished by 2 minutes 10. So this is clearly a third barracks right now. And that does tell him what he needs to know. This is a 3 racks Reaper build. It could technically be CC first into 3 racks play, but that is such an antiquated build. So Dark here realizes it's 3 racks Reaper, and he does something really crazy. In all of his other games, he's gone for Roaches, he's gone for Ravagers to defend, but here, in this most important game, we don't see a Roach Warren. And he starts to just fall apart, and we start to see the brutal ending and somewhat sad ending to a series. It starts off here with the fact that he leaves on gas with no plan for what he's going to spend that gas on. He's just kind of stuck in a pattern of doing his normal build. He's building just 4 Zerglings initially, which are going to struggle to deal with this Reaper. If the Reaper had to come from cross map, it would be delayed. 4 Zerglings would be enough to buy time for your Queen to get out. However, in this horizontal spawn, it's about the same distance as like a Frozen Temple, very short rush distance. So he already starts losing Zerglings. And that's something you really don't want to do. Of course, Byun's micro there is incredible. It's actually so good here, and he gets a little bit lucky here as well. Snipes down these Zerglings, always focus firing them, and look at this Reaper bomb. Just a little bit of luck there. Actually bounces these Zerglings towards the Reapers, gets another Zergling. And already killing 3 Zerglings, forcing a Spore Cancel trick. All of this costs money. A Queen is damaged, and still no response from Dark. Mining gas with no plan of what to use it on. Only a 3rd Queen on the way, no 4th Queen, excess minerals. Byun's just putting the pressure on. He's going to drop a command center behind this in the next few seconds, as he always does with this build. And Dark here just starts to fall apart. So here we see a series of mistakes from Dark. Number 1, blocks his own ramp with a creep tumor. That creep tumor should have gone there or there. Creep tumor, while it's building, will block movement for that 11 seconds. So he actually blocks his own queens on his ramp. Byun rotates into that main base and starts to snipe down drones and kill more and more Zerglings. 3 Zerglings and a drone. Almost gets a 4th drone, wastes a bunch of mining time. 4th Zergling. Now getting damage on the queen as well. This is too much damage. You've also got to look at this and say there was another mistake. Let's go back and identify all the little tiny intricacies, things which Dark would do almost every single time he plays against this, but didn't do this game. Overlord. So check this out. The moment he spots this barracks, he comes in here, he sees this barracks, he should immediately be changing his Overlord path to sit out here. That way he can see where the Reapers are rotating to. He needs to be close enough at furthest out to be out here. So we can see if the Reapers are rotating to hit the natural or hitting up there. But he actually sends his Overlord really far out here on autopilot. And as a result, that's another reason why he doesn't see this Reaper rotation straight away. Dark just doesn't have vision there. And that's a really sloppy mistake. Something which you will almost never see from Dark. This just shows that even in these high pressure games with the best players in the world, mistakes are made because when you've got Byun and his level of micro and control, and he puts on this pressure, this ballsy build on this map, we actually kind of see Dark fall apart a little bit. So another big mistake here, he's been supply blocked on 36 for a while, which is why he's frozen on 3 queens. He could only start the 4th queen once some Zerglings died off. He's building 3 Overlords at once. He's still mining gas with no plan on how to spend that. And also, this is a very important moment. If you do choose to defend Reapers without Roaches, the moment Zergling speed finishes, you need to have a big mass of Zerglings to kind of run out there and either run past the Reapers. Like, if the Reapers are up there, you run down and you cut off reinforcements and you kind of harass the reinforce and constantly threaten coming from 2 sides to surround. But because he's supply blocked, as his Zergling speed finishes, he doesn't have enough Zerglings to really do that. He's still just completely hemmed in on his base. And we see that here he starts to get bullied back into his natural, and it's a kind of relatively tight area where these Reaper bombs start to just it becomes easy for Byun to land those Reaper bombs in the correct locations. He's pulling back these weakened Reapers constantly, so they get a chance to regen, they don't get focused down, and only now are some extra Zerglings going to pop out. But at this point, the Reaper count is already getting too big. It's getting to the number where it can fight 15 or 20 Zerglings. With good Reaper bombs zoning them out, and notice Byun never drops every single Reaper bomb at the same time, he can actually just buy endless time here, and the Zerglings really struggle to actually engage. Finally, you know, Dark here just ends up in this kind of middle zone of like, he's built some drones, but he's just stuck here on 2 bases. He doesn't have any way to break out. He's taking damage constantly. A Queen goes down. He finally starts to go out here with these Lings. But Byun's Reaper bombs here are just too good. He gets 2 Reapers, but the main pack stays alive, and they know they can abuse this high ground, low ground, and that high ground, low ground to stay alive against these Zerglings pretty much forever. You might look at the supply and think this is okay for Dark, but remember, 350 gas, which he's got no way of using right now, and the production is really just starting to kick in at home for Byun. He's got his command center up fully, fully mining now, base half saturated, 2 reactors and a tech lab are down. He's got a factory, he's going to be adding a starport. He's going into like a 3-1-1 sort of double medevac or, you know, triple quad medevac sort of pressure build into a slightly delayed 3rd command center. But where is Dark's 3rd base? He's still trying to catch these Reapers. He just can't shut them down. He's taking so many losses, and the unit's loss tab tells the story. These early problems and mistakes from Dark created an impossible situation. What can he do from here? Really, he just needs to play perfectly. He can't make a single extra mistake. He can't throw away a unit. Everything needs to have a purpose. But even then, playing against Byun, that's going to be really hard. Really damn hard to make that work. So this kind of ended up a little bit disappointing here. At this point, you're going to see that supply lead for Byun get bigger and bigger as he builds units off this 3 barracks. Meanwhile, Dark here desperately going for double Evo Chamber on 2 base, only now getting his 3rd down. He's got some decent creep spread. He's got a good Queen count, but Queens, they're not going to end the game. All they do is buy you time, and when you don't have an economy to buy time for, things get very nasty. So he's stuck below on workers, below on army, below in every regard. I do think that Dark was a little bit surprised by what he was facing. I think he froze up a little bit and reacted very poorly due to being so tired from that previous game, but Byun executed everything there so splendidly. He had just fantastic Reaper bomb placement. Here we see a nice attempted surround there from Dark, but he got 1 Reaper, loses a bunch of Zerglings, and those Reapers are just going to regenerate in a few moments, so really not achieving very much at all. Of course, from here, we're just going to get to see Byun show a textbook way of finishing the game. He comes in, kills the creep, doesn't go too deep on creep, doesn't want to get surrounded. These Reapers do end up going down there, but they drop so many bombs on the Queen, Zerglings, Banelings. And you kind of want to get rid of those Reapers because they're so hard to micro in tandem with the other units, so you just want to trade them out, which he did there. Now his force is much easier to control, and behind this, he's got Hellions on the way. He's got an armory. He wants to be adding Hellbats in with this. And what he's going to do is the classic rotation of pressure, which he's done every single game so far, whether he's ahead, whether he's even, which is he pushes the front, he pushes back creep, and he just tries to find a good engagement there. After a trade or two, and he almost never loses completely. He never loses his whole army because he always fights on the edge of creep. Just wants to pick off tumors, you know, he stims forward, focuses the Queens, focuses those creep tumors. He actually barely pulled back before getting that other one. And whenever it feels like Zerg has been defending for a long enough time, or, you know, the trades aren't going as well, he starts to rotate. And we see that here, where he says, okay, it's getting easy for Dark to focus just in one area. Let's use the mobility of Terran. He picks up a drop, moves that down the left. Starts to move a few Marines around the north side. I think that's just to make sure Zergling, he can spot any Zergling counters. Pulls back with his army, and he's just going to kind of wait for a few seconds here, make sure he secures the 3rd, and then he's going to start poking at the front while dropping on the south. He's then going to rotate around to the top side of the map and constantly be pushing different paths to make sure the Zerg can't get their creep out of control in any area of the map. So once again, poking the front, but never going too far on creep. He always stays close enough, so if he sees the Zerg moving forward, he can get off creep by the time they come into contact with the Marines and Marauders. This drop down here just kind of zoning, and he's making sure there can't really be a fourth base down here from Dark. Once again, scanning, poking in. Just looking for these angles. And he knows that because of this pressure, while he's macroing at home, he's going up to 5 barracks. He's going to be going up to 8 barracks probably soon after. Yep, there we go. 6, 7, and 8 barracks go down. Double Liberator production on the way. And now he starts to kind of multi-prong a bit. He says, okay, let's send some units around the top. We got units on the south, units on the top. Let's just keep Zerg hemmed in. He's going to pick up those Marines there and start to go Byun style. He says, look, I don't think you can defend everywhere at once. Marines start to drop in the main, and this is where Byun kind of goes into gear. He says, okay, let's rotate around this top side. Let's try and hit that fourth. This drop is still just chilling. He saves this drop for the moment. And he splits Dark up, so Dark just can't be ready in every single area at once. Dark's desperately trying to respread creep. Let's fast forward a little bit. And Byun once again setting up a nice, beautiful pre-split just on the edges of creep. Decent Baneling hit there, but guess what's happening at the same time? Drop in the back of the fourth, drop in the back of the natural. Not the most amazing control on these, because he is microing in so many areas at once. Because his main focus is on his front army not dying, so he's okay to like take a bit more damage or, you know, control not quite as well as he could have in some of these. That pickup was amazing. And Dark here is in the much more impossible situation of trying to find that good trade. Whereas if Dark ever makes a mistake and isn't watching, he loses a mineral line. Case in point, the 3 Marines Byun saved from the natural, picked up, dropped here. These Marines, which he picked up so they didn't die to the Banelings, re-dropped them. You're losing all the mining time there. You're losing drones and mining time in the main. And as long as Byun doesn't get completely rolled at the front, he'll win the game right now. Of course, Byun, focusing on his drops a little bit too much, actually takes some massive Baneling hits there and has to evacuate the front. And that looks like a Zerg victory. And it is right there in that little micro engagement. But in the big picture, Byun is just hitting from every angle. It's impossible for Dark to keep up. These drops are just elevatoring left, right, and center. There's no mobile anti-air for Dark. All he's got is Queens, and they had to focus on the front because there were Liberators set up there. So I actually love the addition of the Liberators there, just to force the anti-air away from those drops as well. Just create that annoying position at the front, which it's hard for Zerg to engage into, and then dance around the bases, picking up and dropping over and over again. These Widow Mines are going to get time to recharge. Another drop coming in the south. These Marines up here. That Marine had 13 kills before it went down. And Byun can bring his reinforce across at double supply, and it's just a textbook closing out of a game. He's way ahead. And it was kind of a sad way for this to finish, right? Dark kind of died at the start of the game, and then we just got to watch him slowly bleed out over the next few minutes. It was definitely a beautiful display of skill from Byun. But it wasn't quite the back and forth match we were hoping for after that amazing Sejong Station game. And it was just kind of a little bit of a brutal finish. It was one of these moments in StarCraft where it is the most brutal competition. It's not necessarily always the most back and forth game every time. There's so much that goes into your decision making. Byun here going for what I really do consider it a bit of a gamble. I think if it was cross map, the 3RX Reaper really struggles. I even think in these spawns, the 3RX Reaper, it's good, but it's not necessarily as amazing as it looked here. There was a lot of mistakes from Dark there in the early game. He spotted the 3rd barracks. He was lucky to scout it with his first Overlord, and then he just didn't react. No Roach Warren, supply blocked, didn't pull off gas. If you're gonna consciously skip the Roach Warren, you pull off gas and you focus on Queens and Zerglings, because the only reason you'd leave on gas is to do it like a counterling Bane all-in. If you're going for the Roaches, you drop the Roach Warren immediately and go straight for those couple of Ravages. Dark did neither, and he got supply blocked. And you can tell he was kind of just very tired at this point, thrown off. The pressure got to him, made some uncharacteristic mistakes, and it was a sad way for it to finish. I know Dark would have been really upset with himself after that. And, he showed it as well at the end. I'm not sure if we caught it actually on stream, but I think there was like a very brief moment where I will try and grab that actually and show you guys. Because there was this This moment where we look at the finishing moments of the game. And we are going to see a distraught-looking Dark for just a few moments. I think not even distraught. He just looks like disappointed in himself there. You only caught it for a very small second. But you can tell his face goes into his hands. He knows he did not play the way that he expects himself to, the way that his fans expect himself to. So Dark there, unfortunately having to deal with one of the hardest losses ever. But beyond there, you can see the kind of cross of the emotion there. Incredible play from him. And just keeping that pressure up, it turned out to be the right call. Put the pressure on your opponent, force the mistakes from him. He was so comfortable with this build. He made so few mistakes. And he put the pressure on Dark throughout the entire series. Dark was the player who played overly safe this series. He tried to defend. He played very kind of old school foreigner mentality where you just defend and you never want to attack. You never want to gain an advantage by attacking. You just want to defend because that's the safest way to win. But it's the hardest way to win in StarCraft. It's a fast-paced game, and I feel like Dark gave away too many edges throughout this series by not taking advantage of that. I talked about it in the earlier episodes. He missed many opportunities with his pull first to slow down the command center of Byun because Byun didn't SCV scout in any of the games. Dark played overly safe on maps where it wasn't even that strong for 3x Reaper, like Gettysburg, and he still went for that pull first. On that one, he did try to mix in a small 8 Zergling pressure, but ran into Hellions and it didn't work out. So at the end of the day, sad for Dark, incredible win for Byun. Amazing play on Galactic. His Hellion run by getting the barbecue on Apotheosis was super key. Winning that map choice of Dark was like absolutely massive. Dark managing to win Sejong, which was Byun's map choice, and turn that game around was still the best game of the year, but he couldn't bring it through. He put too much pressure on himself to play perfectly. Byun got to attack, and it looked like Byun kind of built up energy throughout the games, whereas Dark just got steadily drained and ran out of time. All right, guys. So that's the end of the Byun vs. Dark final series. Tomorrow, or sorry, not tomorrow, but next week, I'm going to start off with Showtime versus Byun. We're going to look at his PVT. Showtime's. I want to call it his tsunami. How do you say tsunami? I can never say that word. I'm gonna have to learn how to say that word. I don't know why. His giant wave of every type of AOE. PVT, and then we're going to look at also how Byun kind of played against Deer and evolved his Terran versus Protoss against stats as well, and just threw out a shitload of proxy builds over and over again. Let's educate myself because I'm a noob. Tsunami. That's it. I don't know why I always struggle to say that. Smarmy. So anyway, guys, that's it for now. Thanks for hanging out. ICYFAR is postponed for anyone who didn't hear about it until the new balance changes come out, and then ICYFAR will be restarting. I'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for hanging out. If you guys are still on the stream, I will continue streaming. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to hug a watermelon, kick a walrus, and of course, punch a cactus to the moon. I'll catch you guys next time. Goodbye and good night.